Just for the next 8 to 10 minutes, I want to talk about something that's very important. We had an election recently, and there is a lot of optimism now in America. I have been telling our people for several years that, in fact, probably the whole 20 years our college has existed, that the Jews have a legend that the Messiah will come and set up his kingdom in a Jubilee year. Alfred Edersheim, who was Jewish, he was Orthodox Jew, and then later became a Christian, said that Luke chapter 4, verse 16, where Jesus is quoting scripture, he believes that that was the time maybe when the Jubilee was. Well, we do believe that there was a Jubilee during Jesus' ministry, somewhere between 27 and 31. And I don't believe that it's the year 27, and I've said this for a long time, it's probably year 31. But here's the interesting thing. If that was the Jubilee year, let's say it was 31, and now it's pretty sure it's certainly not 27. But if the Jubilee was 31 in Jesus' ministry, and you count 50-year periods, we have had 39 Jubilees, and there's one more to come. And all of you know, if you've been in the Bible any length of time, if you're a student of Scripture, you know that 40 is a very significant number of trial, the completion of trials and testing. And when Christ returns, he's going to put the end to the devil, and we're going to be free from all that and all that bondage and heathen and idolatry and all that heathenism. Jesus is coming to save the world, John 12. He's coming back to save the world, and he's going to do it. Now, the next Jubilee will be number 40, counting from the ministry of Christ. Is it possible that the year 31, which will also be year 2000 from the time of the cross, Jesus died on the cross in the year AD 31. That's proved over and over and over from the 70 weeks prophecy. There are different ways of people looking at that, but they still come to the same time frame. Jesus was the Messiah based on Daniel 9:27, verses 24 through 27. All right, so here's the thing. Jesus could come back at that time. Now, if that's the case, some of you may not know this, but when you study the 70 weeks prophecy, the 70th week of Daniel was not partially fulfilled by Jesus. I've heard that taught. But the 70th week of Daniel, all 7 years come just immediately before the second coming. When I say immediately, I don't mean just, a few days before, because the 7-year period, the first half, Paul said there's going to be a time of peace and safety, and then sudden destruction comes. Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, then flee, run, get out of there. If you're in the house, stop running, come down to go inside your house. Just run, get out of there as fast as you can, for then shall be great tribulation. The great tribulation starts with the abomination of desolation at the temple. They don't have a temple yet. However, they don't technically have to have a temple. They have to have an altar. And by the way, they have an altar. And I think it was created 4 to 5 years ago. I remember announcing it to our students here, that they have now finished their final altar. They're ready to go. They've been practicing sacrifices, the Levites have. And so it's possible, I think it was a year ago, that Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, set aside a part of the Temple Mount only for the Jews. And that's very likely the place where the altar would be. And so it is possible that they have started offering up animal sacrifices on that altar. If so, the 7-year period may have already begun. It's possible. But they're not going to announce it because of the war. What started the war? Well, according to the Muslims, this is what they themselves have said. We started the war on October the 7th because we heard about the red heifer that was to be sacrificed in October. Now, at the end of October, those calves, they had 5 of them, they had to be between 2 and 3 years of age. They had to be at least 2 years old in a day, according to the Talmud. And they can't be over 3 years of age. Now, that's Jewish regulation. They're the ones that are going to be offering up sacrifices, not the Jews, but the Levites. So by October, they were 2 years old, but by this October, they would now be too old to sacrifice. And they only need one perfectly red heifer. Now, the point of this message that I'm giving you now, the point is, I want to talk a little bit about, will the 40th Jubilee actually be in the year 31? And will that be the culmination of all these events? There is a 7-year period. Now, the first half, when they're offering up sacrifices, there's going to be peace and safety. For the heir to stand back and allow the Jews to do that, there's going to be relative peace over there. But the last half of the 7-year period is what the Bible calls the Great Tribulation. That's 42 months, according according to Revelation 11, it's 3.5 years. 42 months, 160 days, 3.5 years. Time times and a half a time. All right. So at the end of that 7-year period, there's a very short, indefinite period of time called the heavenly signs. That's when the sun goes dark, and you shall turn to blood. You read about this in Revelation 6, the sixth seal, found in Revelation 6. And that happens after the tribulation, according to Matthew 24:29. All right, then you have what is called the great and terrible day of the Lord, which occurs after the heavenly signs, according to Joel chapter 2 and verse 31. Now, the point I want to make here is, I have said for years that it's very possible that AD 31, we don't know the exact year, but possibly 30, 31, right in there somewhere, very likely the very year that Jesus was crucified was a Jubilee year, and it's very possible that the next Jubilee, the 40th Jubilee, may be coming in the year 2031. Now, there are two possibilities that I want to point out to you. And I said that if Kamala Harris won and she continued the policies of Joe Biden, we're in big trouble. I heard just last night on the news that we have something like 2 weeks of munitions left. If we got into a war with China, we wouldn't be able to win. So now that Trump is getting in, he's going to build up our military again. Seems like every time we get a Democratic administration in, they let the military go to pot, and then a Republican comes in there and he rebuilds it. Jimmy Carter got rid of the B-1 bomber when he was president. Ronald Reagan restored the B-1 bomber. He wanted us to be strong. And Obama said, well, we don't need to strengthen the military. We got enough. And so Biden followed that same policy. So right now, if we got into a war with Russia or China or all of them allied together, we would not win, they're telling us. We couldn't win. We don't have enough weapons to do it. So if we had continued another 4 years like this, it's very likely the Great Tribulation would have started in the next few years, possibly by the year 2027. And so 4.5 years after that, very likely Jesus would return. But I want to share a scripture with you, and I only got about another minute. The worst king that Judah ever had was Manasseh. And God said, he said that I'm going to bring evil against Jerusalem and Judah, the nation of Judah, and whosoever hears of it, his ears shall tingle. This is 2 Kings chapter 21, verse 12. And he said, verse 13, I will wipe Jerusalem as a man wipes a dish, wiping and turning it upside down. And he said, they'll become a prey and a spoil to their enemies. But here's the interesting thing. Right after that, in chapter 22, a good king came to power, and his name was Josiah. And so God did not immediately destroy Judah. He gave them a respite. There was a period of time there when God let well enough alone. Now, Donald Trump is back in office, and he plans to rebuild our military, get rid of inflation. He's going to start drilling. He's going to do all these wonderful things that's going to get us back on track. That being the case, it may be that we're going to have a respite, and so it could be. These are the two possibilities. AD 31 being the year of the crucifixion, 2031 being the 40th Jubilee, could be the culmination of all these things and the second coming of Christ. Or, if we do have a little bit longer time, 2031 could, being very likely the actual year of the Jubilee, could be the beginning of the time of the end. In other words, the 7-year period may have started since October, but I mean, before this last October. It would have happened somewhere between April and October when they had to sacrifice the red heifer, and then they could start the 7-year period literally at any time. They may not have started yet. In all likelihood, they did sacrifice the red heifer. But that doesn't mean they've started the daily sacrifices. They may already have. And if that's the case, we may already be in the 7-year period. So here's I want to leave you with this. AD 31 was the year of the crucifixion, very likely the Jubilee, and 80th something from Adam, but it will be the 120th from the time of Adam, or the 40th since the time of Jesus. So the next Jubilee, which will be around 7 years, 8 years from now, will be the 40th Jubilee, and either that will be the culmination of all these things, and Christ may return then. I don't want to set dates, I never have, or that could be the beginning of these events that's going to fulfill the book of Revelation. So keep studying the Bible. Be with us this Saturday, because this is only an introduction to what I'm going to be talking about Saturday. You want to be with us this Saturday. We broadcast at 10:30 live. Tell your friends where to watch this. as many people in your church as you know, tell them to be sure to watch this coming Saturday.